Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Gen Z Sanctum. It's been a few days since I recorded the podcast trailer, and I thought, why not give you guys another episode to listen to while I wait for my companion, Nathan Langford, to join us to be the second host. He's a little bit busy since he has pretty much a full life. He's working one job, trying to get a second, and, well, a couple of other things I'm not going to reveal in this episode, but I thought, why not just record an episode myself and talk about a couple of things just to get a feel of what a more, full-length episode would feel like. So I decided to talk about me in this episode, which may be a little bit self-centered, but then again, I have to record something because otherwise audiences will say, well, they haven't done anything in some time, and then leave, which is unfortunate part of being a content creator. If you don't release something exciting really, really soon, everyone forgets or gets bored, and they move on to something else more exciting. So, I decided that a good place to start would be my interest in podcasting. When I was in high school, this is probably about 3 or 4 years ago, I took a course, JEL, the JEL school at North Central. It's sort of a vocational school. Well, I suppose it has a wide range of different classes, from car mechanics to welding to radio to probably quilt making. I don't know if that's a specific class, but it has a wide range of different classes that you can take there. And I ended up taking a class called movie and film production, and part of that class was actually hosting the radio station that they actually have there at the school. There's a specific radio station. I don't know if I can find it. In fact, let me pull it up here for you guys. It is WJEL 89.3. The J. Everett Light Center also has a place that you can go and get food, which I had totally forgot about. But yeah, that's something. Yeah, it's there's a music and sound production, and then there was film and animation production was sort of the counterpart slash sister class of that course. I ended up taking the film and animation course right before COVID started, so we got animation for the first semester, and then the whole second semester ended up being during COVID lockdown, so couldn't really do much with that. So entered the class for the film, did animation, wasn't able to do film. In fact, it was March. Goodness, it was Monday. It was a Monday. It was March the 13th, I believe, Monday, when everything shut down. I remember distinctly earlier on the 10th, Friday, when I was talking to the teacher, and he said, hey, listen, keep an eye on your email. This whole virus thing could affect us. It seemed, because throughout that week we'd been hearing about what was going on in China and how it was spreading pretty fast. And so that Friday he was like, hey, keep an eye on your email. We'll let you know if you actually have to come in for classes, because things seem to be heading in a direction that would indicate that we may not be able to hold school this next week. So come the morning of the 13th of Monday, I get an email that says, hey, class has been shut down indefinitely, and everything is moving online. At the same time, we're also getting I'm getting announcements from the health system that says, it's just a 2-week lockdown and we'll be fine. I called it. I was like, it's not going to be 2 weeks. I'm pretty sure it's not going to be 2 weeks at this point. So, yeah, this whole second part of the class, which was supposed to be the fun film part, was cut off, essentially. Finished the course online, and yeah, nothing really more came of that, which is unfortunate. But that is where I got the joy of doing radio and voice work, because me and a friend twice had to sit in and basically DJ, announce, this radio brought to you by blah blah blah, here's the next song called this by this, boom, and hit the thing and have the next song play, and basically sit there for an hour of class time and just introduce not only the radio network, its sponsors, and the next couple of songs. I had to do that twice for 2 days in a row, and I was super nervous because I have a lot of social anxiety. I was super nervous about whether I was going to fail or not, how that would turn out, whether people would laugh at me, whether people would know me from that radio announcing gig, so to speak. And turns out it was actually pretty fun, not gonna lie. But essentially, what ended up happening was, me and my friend, I forget his name, unfortunately, we made a lot of jokes about about certain songs and things that we were announcing, and it was great. The teacher said, "You're going a little overboard, but I'll allow it." My teacher, super chill, by the way. His name was Mr. Heineman. I'd suggest, if you're going to go to the JEL course and you're thinking about taking that class, definitely take it. He's super cool. I don't know actually whether he's still teaching that class. Let me check here for a second. Yeah, I just did some research here. Mr. Tyler Heineman was the teacher for that course, and may still be. If he is, and if he ever listens to this, hello, sir. I really enjoyed your class, and I'm going to recommend it to everyone, like I am now in this podcast. So, yeah, definitely go check him out, and his course. If you're ever thinking about going to JEL, as I've said, check that one out. But anyway, let's talk a little bit more about me and my interests, so that by the time we get into later episodes of the podcast and we start talking about certain things, you'll have sort of a basis of what my knowledge and certain opinions I have are, so that you guys aren't surprised or confused about anything. So essentially, I am on the autism spectrum, not severely, but enough to the point where if you spend any amount of time hanging out with me, you will notice. Let's see, what else do I need to say that's worth mentioning? I have a lot of interests that are maybe considered controversial. For one thing, I love horror films, which is something that every time I say, my mother says, "Oh God, you're not talking about the horror movies, are you, again, really?" And I say, yes I am, because it's something I find interesting. And the reason for that is because when I was growing up, I was afraid of pretty much everything. And I found a guy that I to this day I don't know how to pronounce his name correctly, but I'm gonna read you this Jiddu Krishnamurti. I'm not quite sure how you would say that, but essentially he has this quote here that says, "What is needed rather than running away or controlling or suppressing or any other resistance is understanding fear. This means watch it, learn about it, and come directly into contact with it. We are to learn about fear, not how to escape from it," is essentially what he said. I bought a book from him entitled About Fear, where he talks about the different reasons why people are afraid and different ways of dealing with it, including that quote. That quote comes from that book. And so I took from that, I should watch some scary videos, some scary movies, and basically become resistant to being afraid. And let me tell you, it only half worked, because I'm not afraid of as many things as I used to be, but now darkness sort of has faces now. Pinhead from Hellraiser, Jason Voorhees, Michael Myers, the Nun from the Conjuring films. Basically now, instead of fear being sort of an empty, baseless feeling, now it can morph in my mind into many different faces and like actual things to be afraid of. Oh, Freddy Krueger, he was another really great one. So I ended up watching a ton, like so much horror films. Let's see, Nightmare on Elm Street, the Scream franchise, all the Friday the 13th films, all the Hellraiser films, all of the Conjuring films, the Child's Play films, the Halloween films, and a bunch of modern horror films as well. Pretty much everything that was ever really cool relating to the horror franchise and the horror genre I watched. And it did work. I'm not as afraid of as many things as I used to be, but it also kind of caused some trauma, which honestly, that one's on me. That's a my bad there. And so now, so it sort of worked, and it also sort of didn't. But I would definitely not recommend that to any of my young listeners. If you're super afraid of something, don't be like, hey, I'm super afraid of this thing, let's do more of it, just so that I cannot be afraid of it any longer. That's, while in theory that might work, it only partially did. But definitely wouldn't recommend for the people who... I definitely wouldn't recommend. I'm not going to say who I wouldn't recommend it for, or who I would. I'm just going to flat out say, I do not recommend this. So, anyway, what else should I talk about? I suppose that what else I should talk about is what my goals are for this podcast. For one, me and my friend Nathan Langford, for years, have been thinking about doing a podcast, but throughout those years, either him or me have been busy with work, school, or just life in general, bad things, good things, whatever have you, and have never really gotten around to, taking the initiative and just being like, screw it, let's just record something and get it out there for people to listen to and see if they like it. And if they do, we'll do more, and if they don't, we can just continue on with work, life, and whatever else have you, and forget about it. So that is essentially what this podcast is. It is not only a place to talk about things that we're both interested in, things I'm interested in, things he's interested in, discussing, using our own, background and our own opinions to discuss real world issue, as well as, issues in fantasy and imagination and hobbies and so forth. But also, it's the podcast is a bit of a test to see if people would really be interested in listening to two members of Generation Z talk about whatever, and actually maybe care about our opinions. Maybe you wouldn't care about our opinions, but if you don't care about our opinions, you don't have to listen to this podcast any longer. There's, it's just that simple. And, so about the name, Gen Z Sanctum. Initially, the title was something different, but it contained a word that's a bit controversial. I'll say the word. It was basically retarded. Originally we called the podcast Professional Retards, but people seem to dislike not only that concept, but also the word in general. So we decided, okay, let's go with something a little bit more, more I wouldn't say child-friendly, but a little bit more, plain, something that doesn't just by reading the title of the podcast doesn't immediately raise someone's feathers, So we went with the Gen Z Sanctum. Both me and Nathan are members of Gen Z, and Sanctum sort of is an epic way of saying a safe place to talk about things and stuff, just real world issues, fantasy, hobbies, so on and so forth. And normally we would do this together, but as I've said at the beginning of the podcast, circling back around, bringing this episode full circle, he has been busy with life and work and so on. So, what else should I talk about? I suppose we're closing in on 15. This is over 15 and a half minutes long as an episode, so I suppose before I close out this episode, I should say what I want to do for the next couple of episodes. The first episode was a trailer. This second episode is sort of set up, talking about me. What I want to do in the next couple of episodes is get my friend Nathan off his... Get my friend Nathan in here and get him in front of a microphone and record essentially an episode of us together introducing him and then talking about something that mutually interests us both is essentially what I want to do for the next episode, and a few talking about and just sort of test the podcasting world waters and see what people like, what people don't, what people are interested in, what they're not, and then do the stuff that people are interested in, and get it out there for people to listen to. Currently, this podcast is available on Spotify, as well as iHeartRadio, which is surprising. I might get it out into other places as well while I'm at it, but for now, this has been the first episode, sort of a setup episode, talking about myself and my history, and essentially giving you guys a basis for when you listen to future episodes of me and my friend talking about certain topics. You guys can know, where I come from, where my position comes from, where I stand on certain issues, and so forth. So, thank you for listening to this episode. I'm going to call Nathan, get him in here, get an episode with him actually doing this, and we'll see how it goes from there. So, thank you very much.